Hello, everybody. Welcome to the turn 2 of this top power player. I'm Heisen. I'm here with Adepto Terra.
And we are starting with the second turn of this amazing tournament, top Pauper player of the year. And
So we have Turbo Fog against Gate. Azorius Gate, an interesting matchup. What do you think?
Well, it is more interesting from the side of Turbofog, clearly.
Yeah.
Because, Gates can play the control of a control deck, the role of a control deck. But in this case, is clearly not favored because Turbofog is just better against control decks and aggressive strategies compared to decks like Gates in this case, because has more card advantage and hypothetically more resiliency against counter spells.
Yeah.
So it can just get a bunch of time walks in form of Moment Spears, Weather Storm, and Tangle. And Gates is not famous for putting a lot of pressure in the early game against.
At least game one. Because post side you have a lot of plan to deal with fog effect, but in game one is a little disaster.
You can see that having more counter spells in the post sideboard game for Azorius Gate is clearly a huge advantage because there is Power Blast, which is probably the best counter in this matchup from the side of Gates. And I suppose there will be also this spell or counter spell from the sideboard of Fog, but we're still playing game one. So
I think the best way to deal with fog is to counter every draw spells. Currently, Turbo Fog is set up at the game, so he's searching for lands. He's searching to try to find the card advantage and the fog effect, but we can see that he is full in the hand. He's full of fog effect, and there is no Basilisk Gate currently on the battlefield, so the race, the pressure is not high. So from the Gate side,
if Gates can find in the early game at least Basilisk Gate, especially in game one, there's not much that the Gates decks can do against the opponent, since its only game plan is winning with the combat step, at least in game one. And if you only have 4 copies of counterspell in your deck, it's very difficult to stop Turbo Frog from looping the card advantage, because Turbo Frog is more like a combo deck rather than a control deck, because it requires a bunch of card advantage, a bunch of counter spells, and also seems like the metagame just arrived, so we can also provide you about the percentage of this event. And as predicted, Ponza is the most played deck, but surprisingly, the second most played deck is Kogate. So Ponza 14%, Kogate 10%, Grixis Affinity with the new addition, the Furries 10%.
the Sneaky Snacker.
Exactly. We also have a couple decks that probably you are not surprised to see in paper, but are clearly more difficult to find on Magical Line, like Altertron, with 6 copies of Altertron and 5% on the metagame. We probably didn't told the.
So we are fixing the board state because the name was in the opposite side, but so like 1 minute, but not more. So another interesting part is that we have also Altertron as the combo deck at the highest percentage.
Yeah, Altertron has the last couple of years always been played a lot in Italy in the paper events. Of course, you can't really play Altar on Magical Line because this deck requires
too many click.
Yeah, it's very hard to generate enough counters.
You have to
and
train your
tokens.
one finger on the mouse too much.
You can count the amount of players playing Altertron or Magical Line in your single end. So just a couple of players plays the deck on Magical Line, and it's kind of weird if you consider how the deck develops, because usually when especially a new deck appear in a format, people tend to copy the deck list from the online.
Yeah.
So with decks like Altertron that don't really have any appearance on a Magical Line, it's clearly more difficult for them to show up on events, at least on Magical Line.
Yeah.
And it is much more easier to find them in paper. So maybe we have a lot of different lists, different Altertron lists, because there's not much presence of Magical Line compared to, of course, the paper event. So what is happening here? They are still having the same game one as earlier. So Turbofog is developing its mana base, while Kogates is trying to deal more damage as possible, trying to slip under the moment's peace effect. And it's kind of annoying in game one.
Okay, we are back on the match. We saw how one of the strongest creature in Gates was discarded, the Guardian of the Guild Pact, that in this matchup is clearly a bad card.
Yeah, it's very poor.
It's just a 2/3 that costs 4 mana, so not very good.
Well, as you already said, without any Basilisk Gate on the battlefield, it's very hard for Kogate.
It's cool that the Turbofog has not to start to fog until he can go to 1 life and simply continue to draw card, continue to make land every turn. Now a dispel on the draw spell.
Let's take a look at what happened. So if you don't know who Arcane Denial works, basically it's a card draw spell, and can also be played as counterspell. So it says counter target spell if its controller can draw up to 2 cards, so 0, 1, or 2, and in the next upkeep, and you also who cast the spell are also able to draw 1 card. So if you counter your own spell, you are basically drawing 3 new cards.
And if you counter only 1 copy of the Weather the Storm, you gain a lot of life, and then you draw 3 cards. So it's an amazing synergy.
That's basically a better divination, and you are still resolving your life against spells. So that's early.
And you can use it sometimes to protect your spells.
Exactly. So especially against an opponent which doesn't really present anything relevant, or can't play any counter spells. Just to say, if we are going really late in the game and Zerus Gate has already played all their counter spells, you can just cast an Arcane Denial on your opponent, dispel or whatever, if they try to counter your moment's piece. So it can also be an extra moment piece in certain situations. That's really cool.
Also, we saw another new card for Gate. That is an addiction from 2 edition before. That is Autolomedic. It's a really good card. Not in this matchup, but to deal with mono red and to deal with a lot of removal decks it's an incredible card. It's another creature with lifelink that can help the plan of Gate. That is always to try to gain some time, build your mana base, and then kill your opponent with 2 or 3 Basilisk Gate.
So that Autolife Medic is basically another copy of Secret Cat,
Yeah.
but it replaces itself not by having Embalm, but by drawing you an extra card if your opponent kills it with removal spells or charm blocking it. That's cool. If we talk about the current metagame, if you play as a Gate, especially in this event, the top purple player, why are you playing Kogate over next example Ponza or Grixis Affinity? Because from my point of view, it is really fun to see Kogate as the second most played deck, while Ponza is the most played one. That's if you see just the amounts of decks, you maybe think that who played Kogate, who decided to play Kogate here, didn't really do the right choice.
I think that Kogate is one of the most solid deck in the meta, so it's always a good choice if you set up the deck correctly. In this moment, if you think about a lot of Ponza deck, you can choose to play a lot of Spell Pierce that can deal very well with Ponza effect on the start of the game. But the problem is that that matchup was winnable if you are able to play on board your Guardian of the Guild Pack. But now there is the new Chrysalid. That is a new addition from Modern Horizon 3 that is colorless. So it's a big problem. It's a big problem currently.
Colorless as reach and also generate a couple Eldrazi Spoon tokens. So before Modern Horizon 3, you were basically not be able to interact with Guardian of the Guild Pact. Now with only just one card, you can charm block it 3 times. And you also have another creature with reach, which is a huge improvement since Ponza always used to be very weak against flying creatures.
Yeah, also, as the chat says, there is the new card, the Traben Charm, that is a really cool addition to the deck, to Gates. So that card can deal very well with enchantment, with big creature, so it can be a good choice.
Yeah, also I think that Kogate is kind of well positioned against Grixis Affinity, or at least it used to be. Until a couple of years ago, maybe Gearseeker Serpent and King Artificer were problematic for Kogate. But right now, unless you are able to keep a Sneaky Snaker on the battlefield to block their flying creatures or their Guardian of the Guild Pact, because the Sneaky Snaker is multicolored and can block Guardian of the Guild Pact, because Guardian has protection only from monocolored spells. I don't really know how the matchup is right now.
So we saw that Franco Cicchini was counting the land because he is approaching the end game. He milled the first 4 cards, and we saw a Traben Charm, a counterspell, so 2 strong cards. So it can be a real problem because he is starting to count also the resources of the other player. So.
Also, I think that is important to note that right now Turbofog doesn't have a lot of lives. Maybe it has a lot of fog effects in hand, but right now Kogate is not forced to activate the Basilisk Gate to kill the opponent. But a lot of counter spells are already on the graveyard of Kogate, so probably it's just a matter of time. So we are waiting for Turbofog to draw another copy of Stream of Thought and mill out Kogate.
Another plan can be, we don't know how many copies of Trap and Charm is currently played, are currently played from Gates, but when you play the second copy of Stream of Thoughts, if you play Trap and Charm and exile all the graveyard, if there are a lot of resources on graveyard, maybe it can be a really good spot to put you in an advantage. So it can be a really cool card and a great plan if you keep your counterspell for the end game. So Gates can create his own spot to win.
Yeah, that's sure. All right, so Cecchini foretelled a card, which is likely Behold the Multiverse, the 4 mana instant speed divination, and is still going with fogging every turn without any worries about Trap and Charm, casting Behold the Multiverse in the end phase, and the game just goes long. Oh,
so they didn't exile the moment piece, so we have. Okay.
what happened?
They have to exile
Okay.
the first moment piece.
Yeah, they casted from the graveyard with flashback. All right.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So we also saw Behold the Multiverse being countered by double counter spells. So there are 3 copies of counter spells at least in the graveyard, and supposedly Kugate is trying to fight over the resources.
They fixed it. They fixed it.
All right,
right. Perfect.
And Cecchini doesn't have a lot of card advantage in hand. A lot of fog effects, and Kugate is clearly trying to stop fog from having enough resources to keep drawing extra fog effects, trying to win the longer game. But they conceded, so I guess they just didn't have enough.
One important resources in this matchup is the time.
Yeah. Well, luckily for Cecchini is a really fast player, and is already accustomed with playing blue combo decks like Turbo Fog. If I remember correctly, he also played in Pioneer decks with Nexus of Fate, which is a card which works similarly to the strategy of Turbo Fog in Pauper, because just keeping getting extra turns with fog effects or time walk spells until the opponent just die in any kind of way. I mean, you can mill out your opponent, or you can beat them with an animated land in Pioneer. In this case, since we are playing Pauper, you are more likely to kill your opponent with Murmuring Mystic, which is now a staple card in Turbo Fog. So can we take a look of the deck list sideboard? Do you perhaps have the deck list on hand? Because I don't have any internet connection on my telephone, so I can't see that.
Do you have that in the Discord?
Let's also take a look of other decks in this tournament. Maybe there's something cool to see in the next round. Ooh. Interesting enough, there's also some Dimmer Terror deck playing Sneaky Snaker. There's Botwall Cascade and...
One moment, we will have.
Okay.
So reading the chat, I'm not defending the title because sometimes you have to stop at the highest level to be remembered as a winner. So that's the point. But the Boose, the organizer of this event, tournament organizer of this event, asked me to do that. So I'm really happy to be here and do the coverage of this fantastic, this incredible event. So that's why. But it's good. It's good.
Also, really cool to have Azur's Fairies in this tournament. Yeah, that's Azur's. They also pointed out that is Azur's and not other color combination.
So we can see that it can be a really cool transformation. So it can be a really cool game through. They are starting.
It is probably more important to note what Colgate can play in their sideboard because, as Hazen, Mirko Ciavatta pointed earlier, they also play Trap and Charm.
Yeah.
Trap and Charm sometimes, or if the Turbofog player doesn't really play maybe too many resources and don't reshuffle enough fast, their Tangle effect or their card advantage, they can get exiled too many cards from their graveyard. And in this case, Colgate is playing 2 Trap and Charm in their main deck and another 2 copies in their sideboard. Also, they have a Red Elemental Blast, but they don't have anything relevant because unless they want to bring in Arms of Father instead of maybe Secret Cat or Prismatic Strands, if they have a lot of cards that they don't really need in the matchup, because you can be able eventually to kill their Murmuring Mystic tokens if they bring in Murmuring Mystic post aside.
Oh, this is a really cool play. He plays Stream of Thoughts on turn 2, and the opponent plays Brainstorm to set up the hand and cycle some bad card.
Yeah, that's a very cool play, and usually is the Turbofog deck doing that because you play Brainstorm. So if you have a Stream of Thought in your hand and you want to play it for whatever reason, you can first cast your Brainstorm and reshuffle some bad cards. In this case, we can see both Growth Spiral, playing an extra land, and the new Modern Horizon free fetch land, which is also an Ash Barrens. Well, you can play as an Ash Barrens to add a colorless mana. You can't cycle from your end for a basic land, but it does work well as a Evolving Wilds. So it's a better version of Evolving Wilds for sure.
Yes, it's a cool addition to this format.
The coolest part about this cycle of lands is that they can also cycle from your end to draw an extra card, and the additional ability to cycle it was just added to the card just to remind you which kind of basic land you can fetch with it. So it's an addition or mostly to remind you how the card works, but it works perfectly fine.
So this game is a war of Brainstorm plus Shuffle effect. Is the third Brainstorm plus the third Shuffle effect. So it seems to see a legacy play. So look, that amazing token, the amazing cat token.
Okay, we can also take a brief look at what cards have in hand our friend Cicchini, which currently has at least one copy of Counterspell, one Tangle, and also one Murmuring Mystic. So he brought in the Mystics, even though he won game 1. I suppose you can say that Mystic is a better fog effect compared to other cards because
but now the problem is you know that your opponent is playing Trap and Charm, So if you play your Mystic as your transformation side, and you see a Trap and Charm that kill your creature, it can be a really bad
Alright.
choice.
Well, that's true, but since you are already playing against a deck featuring 4 copies of Red Elemental Blast, I suppose you prefer to play the Mystic when you have enough counter spells in
Yeah.
your hand to protect it. Anyway, being able for the opponent to destroy Murmuring Mystic with Trap and Charm is really neat. I mean, if you land your Murmuring Mystic and you don't really think about Trap and Charm doing much beside exiling your graveyard, you can be quite surprised
Yeah.
by that card killing your main win condition. All right, so
But look how Gates can go deep with all the modern age. Every turn he's drawing cards and cards and cards, cycle all the bad cards, searching for all the counter spell that he has on the deck. And Franco in Cecchini is starting with the Murmuring Mystic, so the plan, the game changer card, and plays a Brainstorm, create a token. So now he has a lot of blockers, and he is not forced to fog every turn now. So it can be a really, really game changer
yeah,
point.
that's a really good spot for Turbo Fog here. Well, I guess his plan for the next turn is landing Murmuring Mystic, trying to protect it eventually, and then cast Tangle if the opponent is trying to kill the opponent with Basilisk Gate.
Another Trap and Charm was milled, and to reply to the chat, we are 124 players currently at this top Pauper player tournament. So it is a really huge tournament before the Paupergeddon, and this is the crown on top of the 3 events, the 3 Paupergeddon, Milano, Rome,
Ooh.
and Pisa.
Just as predicted, Charm destroying Murmuring Mystic.
Yes, if you don't have a counterspell on backup, it can be not the best choice to bet on this transformation.
Well, I guess anyway, if you expect your opponent to bring in 4 copies of Relic of Progenitus, because usually, or at least in the last metagame, Kogate used to play a lot of copies of Relic of Progenitus. It's kind of reasonable. I mean,
what do you think of this new Think Twice, Dedus?
Well, I've discussed it with Cecchini about playing Dedus over Frantic Inventory. The main issue about Frantic Inventory is in this metagame is that you are likely gonna expect a lot of Graveyard 8 to fight, especially against Sneaky Snaker, which is, I say, omnipresent in any Grixis affinity list, and can be also found on Dimmer Terror, and eventually you can also find in Izzet Control, because you can just add some Izzet Charm to discard your Sneaky Snaker. And I say that Dedus is kind of not really better than Frantic Inventory if there isn't any graveyard 8 on the battlefield, because being able to draw 2 or more cards by paying only 2 mana, it is better compared to draw only 1 card with 2 mana. But if your opponent has a Relic of Progenitus on the battlefield, or play a Bajuka Bog or an Nihil Spellbomb, it's clearly better Dedus, because it is better than Think Twice, because you pay 2 less mana to draw the card with the clue instead of casting it from your graveyard with flashback. And of course, you don't really mind your opponent graveyard 8 with this kind of card advantage.
So now the creatures stay tapped because the last turn there was a Tangle. It is a really old card, but it's really cool as frog effect because you can simply gain 2 turn of fog, and so now all the game is to how many card draw will the Turbo Fog resolve.
That's true. All right, so we are basically on the end of this game because Turbo Fog has only 1 life left, which isn't really much, but is much more than being dead.
Another Tangle. So now currently Gate has only to touch the opponent.
Yeah.
Only to touch the opponent.
Can swing with only 1 creature and kill Turbo Fog.
Yeah. But the point is, currently Gate has no card in hand. Only one, because it's the Squadron Oak that he is not playing. But we can see how Cecchini has no fog effect. Maybe he draw 1. Because it changed completely the game.
Yeah, we are at a turning point.
Yeah. Because now Counterspell is not a card. It's not a real card. So, but he has maybe another Tangle.
Tangle and also Fog. So the namesake card in the end of Turbo Fog.
Gate has to count every turn. Has to try to deal at least 4 damage because he don't want to lose by a single Weather to Storm that try to fog.
Mm-hmm. All right, fog.
A simple white border fog. Symbol. I think.
Time Walk. Ooh, cycle the new fetch land.
And this is another cool part of that new Ash Barrens because it's very strong. You can play at 1 colorless mana and then you can fetch for a colored land. And then with Bojuka, because you play Bojuka to exile the graveyard that you make it grow thanks to the mill card. Mm-hmm. And then you can, in late game, cycle your extra land, draw more card, not die to another draw of land. So it's a really cool card. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, always being able to replace that card, make your deck very much better, especially in the late game. All right, so there's a 1 mana Stream of Thought. No, there's a replicated Stream of Thought. So Colgate is putting in their graveyard 8 cards, and Turbo Fog is reshuffling 8 cards from their graveyard. And as you already said, Colgate doesn't really have a lot of resources in their end. So I suppose unless they draw really well and Turbo Fog draw really poorly, but they also have a Lorien Revealed in their hand.
Yeah.
It is more likely a game win for Turbo Fog. Let's see.
I think that the turning point was that Lorien Revealed plus Counterspell on back that give to the Turbo Fog a lot of resources to deal because in that moment if Lorien Revealed didn't resolve, maybe we were watching the game tree.
Yeah, I agree. So you can say that in this kind of matchup, the mid game is probably the most important part of the game because Colgate isn't really fast, doesn't play any kind of land denial like we already mentioned Ponza. Yeah. So isn't really able to interact or put a lot of pressure against the opponent. And if Turbofog is able to play enough lands and keep enough cards in hand, it is more likely for Turbofog to win rather than.
We can also see the late game of Turbofog where there is a campus on board, and every turn he's able to control the top of the deck. It is a really upside respect the opponent that simply draw one random card and you not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can see that being able to put on the bottom of your deck one card that you don't need anymore in the game is kind of tapping 5 mana to draw an extra card without spending any resource.
Yeah. So he is milling other 4 cards, so he is killing the opponent very slowly, because it's the third time that he milled only 4 cards. But we can see how the deck of Cecchini is really tiny currently. So every turn he is able to draw a lot of cards and find another stream of thoughts, mill other 4 cards, shuffle other fog effect and other draw spells, continue to draw. So that's the real strength of this deck. That at one point in late game it was it is close to impossible to lose.
Mm-hmm. I suppose so. So there's a flashback, moment piece flashback. So they he exiled it from their graveyard.
Yeah.
And also he cast Behold the Multiverse from the exile. And he drew 2 cards. Scry 2 first. And then draw. I think that Kogate doesn't really have a lot of cards in their graveyard. Yeah. So maybe just finding the last stream of thought is the key to win this game. But, when you can say that your opponent doesn't have any answer in their hand, they're just hoping you don't have any answer, any way to prevent the combat damage.
We can see another. He is putting on the bottom of the deck another Murmuring Mystic, because clearly in this moment of the game is not the card that you want. You want only to see another stream of thoughts and end this game, because
that's true.
You have too much card draw. Look how many. How can Turbofog can go deep in this moment with all the resources that he has? So all the mana base is on the battlefield, so he is able to do what
the
he
board
wants.
here is in a very confusionary state, even though there's no creature on Turbofog side of the table, and you are still flipping creatures, casting Moment Spells, cast Behold the Multiverse, find another piece, another Moment piece. That's really cool, at least from my point of view.
So in this moment, Gates is only watching the opponent, killing him. So
and what they have found? There's Mystic.
Wow, what a game, what a game, what a game, what a game. There was the breaking point, was that counter war on the Lorry revealed. This is a match in which you have to use your resources, your counter very wisely, because if you miss the right counter war, you lose the game.
Yeah, that's true. As you already pointed, for Kogate, especially in game 1, they have not so many counter spells. So all their deck is built to interact with creatures deck. So cards like Basilisk Gate on Secret Cat, Prismatic Strands, and Journey to Nowhere are really useless against Turbofog, which doesn't play any creature in the deck.
But now you have less removal spell that are bad because you play not for Journey to Nowhere, but the new Trap and Charm that is a really cool addition. As we said before, it can exile the Graver, destroy. It's like the destroy evil but powerful.
Yeah, it's like Dawnbringer Cleric, but powerful.
Yeah, yeah. Dawnbringer Cleric is an insane card. Very, very well. Okay. So we need to talk for a while because the tournament this turn, the second turn of this game is ending. So okay. So what do you think about Turbo Fog in this meta?
I like Turbo Fog, and
So seeing the percentage of the deck, if you think about Ponza, it's a disaster.
it's a disaster for Ponza.
It's a disaster for Ponza.
Every time-
I mean, you play for Bounceland.
I also play Growth Spiral, Arcane
Yeah.
Denial, and Counterspell. So, okay, sometimes you can...
So you want to use
lose.
Growth Spiral plus a Bounceland to deal with... That's a good point.
That's the Giga Chad play.
That's the Giga Chat play.
But well, usually, Ponza has 8 Land Denial spells,
Yeah.
but you can see that both Growth Spiral and Arcane Denial are the counter spells for the Land Denial. Even if you don't have a bounce land in hand, you can just get an extra land with Growth Spiral. So by getting an extra land drop, you are neutralizing your opponent's land denial, because the whole point of destroying your opponent's lands is getting a time walk kind of spell. In this case, against we can say that Ponza is the aggro deck of the metagame. So it doesn't really have any removal spells anymore, at least. But they have Charmocast and Muley Acid Moss, because they, in their early game, they don't put much pressure on the board compared to decks like Stumpy or Buggles. So instead of going lower on the curve, especially since they are a deck with a lot of mana ramp, and that mana ramp is supposed to let you cast big threats like Annoyed Altisar and Burning Party, you are trying to slow down your opponent so they can't interact much with your game plane. But their whole deck is just a bit down deck. So if you play enough answers to the land denial, and if you also play enough answers to their beat down, decks like a deck like Ponza doesn't really matter. So Fairies, Dimmer Fairies, or Dimmer Terror, or even GSK Ephemerate are kind of well positioned against Ponza, because, well, in case of
at least game one.
Yeah, of course, at least game one. But Ponza is a deck with a huge variance, a lot of variance. So, a lot of times, even though you are well positioned against Ponza, you may still lose because they may have the nut start, and you maybe are one turn too slow to interact well with them, especially in Pauper, because Pauper has a lot of tapped lands. So unless you are playing mono black devotion with 24 removable spells and 24 lands, you're probably gonna have a hard time against Ponza if your main plan is to interact with the most aggressive decks.
Yeah, the chat touch one point, it is Hordes of Blade, and what do you think about the matchup of Hordes of Blade versus Turbo Fog? Because this is an interesting matchup, because the Hordes of Blade is a new addition to the format. It was a deck before Modern Horizon 3, but now with Refurbished Familiar, it's a completely another deck. Very, very strong now. He has a very good synergistic between cards. Glintok plus the Familiar is maybe the most powerful play currently. So against a deck like Fog, it's a very powerful play.
Yeah. Well, probably it's more powerful Okiba Shinobi on whatever threat you have on the battlefield. The strength of cards like Okiba Shinobi and Ninja of Deity Powers is that they can generate card advantage or any kind of advantage because Okiba, discards your opponent resources, but doesn't really do much for you beside replacing itself with a new fresh creature in your hand. And Okiba and Ninja of Deity Powers, which is not really played in a Horse of deck, can give you extra cards on force your opponent to lose resources. Even in those situations where they don't really need to cast a fog effect, or so they choose between casting Moment Spears or whatever, so losing one card, or not casting anything and losing 2 cards. So Okiba is probably the most powerful card you can play against Turbo Fog.
I think so. I hope to see during this tournament a small mouse evolving into a big mouse, because it can be a really interesting play. And I want to see that. I want to see how our Refurbished Familiar plus Okiba Gang Shinobi can be. So
as this pointed in the chat, if there isn't any first deck in the metagame, Turbo Fog is likely to drop Desert from its bot main deck and sideboard, because Desert used to be the best card against furries. But right now you also have Murmuring Mystic, and Murmuring Mystic is as well really awesome against furries because generate extra flying creatures.
But we can see how in the metagame Fairies is not played.
I think there's only one first deck.
Only one. That is an Azorius Fairies. Yes, an Azorius Fairy. That is amazing.
Well, we have a very powerful removal spell printed in white and Modern Horizon 3, and that is Trap and Charm.
Yeah.
So
If
you have enough fairies on the battlefield, it's just the count of how many fairies you have, and deal that many damage, plus multiplied by 2.
Yes, plus you have Grave 8 on the main deck, so it can be like a mono who Fairies plus splashed by white. It's incredible how Fairies was not a choice, maybe due to 2 main cards that are Refurbished Familiar, because it flies, so it is a 2-for-1 every time. It's difficult to counter for a spell starter sprite, and also the new Chrysalid that we saw on the round 1 on the Ponza side that has reach, and is a big deal to face for Fairies. So it's not maybe the right moment for Fairies.
That's clearly not the right metagame if your main game plan is attacking with small creatures.
So it's a really cool meta call to not play any desert on the list of Cicchini. So the Turbo Fog and
Yeah, also because if you want to play Brainstorm like the Turbo Fog player did, you are probably likely to drop some colorless lands to play more copies of Ash Barrens or some fetch lands, because you need more colored lands.
You need to find space also for the new fetch land that, as we see, is very, very cool. Since you play 3-color main deck. So it's perfect. What about Rakdos Madness? Rakdos Madness.
We have Madness Grixis with Sneaky Snacker, which is kind of the same deck.
Yeah.
But I guess that's just it.
I think it's like the 7 to 8% of the meta.
Yeah,
we have nine copies of that deck. That deck currently has a really good interaction between the new fairies or Sneaky Snacker and the Faithless Looting. And there are many cards that draw 2 cards at instant speed. So you can take back your creature from the graveyard like many times during the game. So it's a huge advantage that you can create. So
we are not streaming the day 1 of Paupergeddon.
It will be tomorrow.
Yep. Today there is the top Pauper player, which is an invitational tournament held only one time per year, and you can be invited by getting in the top 8 of a Paupergeddon or winning a local Pauper league or winning an international Pauper tournament.
Yeah. Yes. So
yeah, but tomorrow and Sunday, the mini event, will be streamed.
Yeah. Okay. So we are going to take a break for a moment, and in few minutes we will be back with the round 3. So stay tuned and see you soon.